Let's talk about a silent distance that can grow between two people who still love each other deeply. What happens when you start to feel more like respectful roommates than intimate soulmates? If that feeling is familiar, know that your experience is real and it is incredibly common. A major poll by AARP confirmed what so many feel, that while nearly two-thirds of adults over 65 still long for intimacy, physical barriers often create this silent gap. Welcome to Senior Health and Life. But this is not an ending. It's an invitation to write a new, more connected chapter. And today we're going to show you how with gentle and effective solutions. To start this conversation, please let us know with a simple yes in the comments if you agree that genuine connection is the foundation of a joyful life. To truly bridge this distance, we first have to understand where it comes from. For so many couples, the root of the distance isn't in the heart, but in the body's biology, in natural changes that we often misunderstand. This brings us to the most important starting point, listening to the conversation your body's trying to have. Let me tell you the story of Carol and David, and their story may very well be your story too. They've been married for 52 years, their love as deep and sturdy as an old oak tree. But in the last few years, after David recovered from prostate surgery, their physical intimacy slowly faded. At first, it was out of medical caution. Then it became a habit, and now it's an unspoken space between them. Carol, in quiet moments, remembers the old days, but that memory is now tinged with anxiety. She fears the feeling of painful friction, a feeling she secretly believes is her fault. David, watching his wife across the room, feels a sadness he doesn't know how to name. He loves his wife dearly, but he's afraid of hurting her, and that fear has morphed into a lack of confidence, a sense of helplessness that has crept into other parts of his life. Both of them, in their own silence, have come to the same heartbreaking conclusion that this chapter of their lives is over. But their misunderstanding doesn't stem from a love that has faded, but from a failure to understand the biological language of the body after 70. Think of a woman's body as a lush garden. Throughout the younger years, that garden is nourished by a steady rain of hormones, primarily estrogen. Estrogen is like the diligent gardener, keeping the soil, meaning the vaginal tissues, thick, moist, and elastic. It ensures the garden is always ready to welcome and nurture life. But after menopause, that hormonal rain becomes less frequent. The gardener visits less often. Without that care, the soil can become drier, thinner, and less resilient. This isn't a disease, it's a change in the environment. This condition, which doctors call vaginal atrophy or the genitourinary syndrome of menopause, GSM, is the primary reason for discomfort. For Carol, the painful sensation wasn't a sign of rejection or that she was broken. It was simply the garden's cry, that it was thirsty. Meanwhile, for both men and women, another element changes as well, the sunlight of blood flow. Healthy circulation is like sunshine, bringing energy and life to every corner of the garden. It's essential for arousal, sensitivity, and sexual response. In men, strong blood flow is the prerequisite for an erection, while in women it increases natural lubrication and pleasure. As we age, conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease can cloud these currents, like clouds blocking the sun. For David, his lack of confidence wasn't just psychological. It was a response to a tangible change in his body's circulatory system. When a couple like Carol and David aren't educated about these natural changes, they begin to fill in the blanks with stories of self-blame. Carol thinks, maybe I'm not desirable anymore. David thinks, maybe I've failed my wife. The silence isn't a symptom of lost love. It's a symptom of missing knowledge. But knowledge is power, and the first step to reclaiming intimacy is to learn to become wise gardeners of our own bodies. Now that we understand the why physical discomfort happens, we can finally move to the more hopeful question, how? How do we gently respond to our body's needs and restore comfort? This isn't about forcing anything. It's about creating an environment where intimacy can once again blossom. Our journey of rediscovery begins with the most fundamental step, rebuilding the foundation of comfort. When we talk about rebuilding a house, we don't start with decorations, we start with the foundation. In recreating intimacy, the foundation is physical comfort. The good news is that there are many safe and effective solutions, from simple at-home steps to science-backed medical therapies. The first non-negotiable and easiest step is understanding lubricants and moisturizers. Knowing the difference between these two can make a world of difference. Think of lubricants as a gentle shower of rain right when you need it, used during intimacy to instantly reduce friction. Look for high-quality water-based or silicone-based products. On the other hand, vaginal moisturizers are a longer-term strategy, like conditioning the soil of your garden. You use them regularly, a few times a week, independent of sexual activity, to provide long-lasting moisture to the tissues, helping them stay healthy and resilient over time. For many women with mild symptoms, this dedicated routine can be all they need. If your garden has been dry for a long time, sometimes it needs nourishment from the roots up, which is where local estrogen therapy comes in. It's crucial to understand this is completely different from systemic hormone replacement therapy, HRT, as it works directly on the vaginal tissues with an extremely low dose and is considered safe for most women. The options are diverse and can be tailored to you, from small vaginal tablets or rings like Vagifem, which release a small and consistent dose of estrogen, to creams like Estrus, which offer the flexibility to apply it directly where it's needed most. There is also another non-estrogen option called Intrarosa, a DHEA suppository that acts like a seed for your body to create its own hormones locally. Starting a local therapy is like installing a steady, gentle drip irrigation system for your garden. It's not a flood, but a consistent, gentle nourishment. Sometimes the issue isn't just with the tissues. Imagine this. If you touch a hot stove, your hand pulls back as a protective reflex. After years of experiencing discomfort, your pelvic floor muscles learn a similar reflex. They clench to protect themselves, like a frightened fist. Over time, this defensive clenching itself becomes a source of pain. This is where pelvic floor physical therapy, PT, becomes invaluable. It's not about doing Kegels. In fact, for many women, it's the exact opposite. A specialized physical therapist will teach you how to unclench that fist through gentle manual techniques. They can also guide you in using tools like dilators to slowly reteach your body that penetration is not a threat, turning a fear response into a response of trust and openness. For Carol, the combination of estrogen cream and a few sessions of physical therapy made a profound difference. For the first time in years, the fear inside her was replaced by a feeling she had forgotten, the feeling of hope. Does the concept of the body clenching and self-protection resonate with you, not just in intimacy, but in other aspects of life? Let us know with the word insight in the comments if it does. Restoring physical comfort, as Carol discovered, is a monumental step. It removes the fear of pain, which is often the biggest barrier. But what if the physical side is ready, but the spark of desire, the libido, still feels distant? This is an incredibly common and sensitive part of the conversation. And it brings us to our next crucial point: navigating the complex ocean of desire. Now that we've addressed physical comfort, let's talk about a topic that's even more sensitive: desire. One of the most common questions doctors hear is, how do I get my libido back? The first and most important thing to acknowledge is that libido is not a simple on-off switch. It's a complex symphony played by the instruments of hormones, physical health, mental state, stress, medications, and most importantly, the quality of the relationship. Low desire is not a character flaw, it is a state of being. One of the most liberating truths a couple can learn is the difference between two types of desire: spontaneous desire and responsive desire. Spontaneous desire is the type we often see in movies, a sudden wave of lust that comes out of nowhere, and this type naturally tends to decrease with age. Responsive desire, however, is far more common after 70. It doesn't start with a spark, but with a decision. It's arousal that happens after physical or emotional intimacy begins. Desire is not the prerequisite for intimacy. It is often the result of intimacy. Understanding this can change everything. It removes the pressure to feel in the mood before you begin. Instead, it allows a couple to say, let's start with a hug, a kiss, a conversation, and see where it leads us. However, there are times when biology needs a gentle nudge. Medically, there are tools that can help retune the radio. A gentle option is supplementing with DHEA, a natural precursor to testosterone, which can help slightly increase libido. For cases needing a stronger intervention, there are prescription medications like ADE, a daily non-hormonal pill that works on brain neurotransmitters. Or another approach is Vyleesi, an as-needed injectable that acts as a temporary booster rocket for desire. Most importantly, no matter which path you choose, the conversation about libido must begin with communication with your partner. Admitting I don't feel the way I used to, but I miss our closeness can be one of the most intimate things you can share. Navigating the complexities of desire is a journey in itself, but once that door to intimacy is open again, many couples find a new landscape to explore. The goalposts may have shifted. This leads us to a vital and empowering realization about pleasure after 70, redefining the destination and discovering new paths to get there. For many, the goal of intimacy is orgasm, but as our bodies change, the path to orgasm can change too. This can cause frustration, but if viewed correctly, it's also an opportunity to discover a much wider map of pleasure. For women, as tissues become less sensitive due to hormonal and circulatory changes, reaching orgasm may require more direct and focused clitoral stimulation. This isn't a failure, it's a change in the itinerary. The body is asking for a different kind of attention, often one that is more focused and gentle. There are tools that can aid this journey. A little bit of topical estrogen or testosterone cream, specially prescribed by a doctor, can significantly increase blood flow and sensitivity. There are also products like O creams, which are topical creams, some of which work by increasing blood flow to the area to enhance pleasure. And even the O shot, a regenerative medical procedure that uses platelet-rich plasma from your own blood to promote tissue regeneration and enhance nerve function. However, the most important exploration lies in expanding our definition of satisfaction. Focusing only on intercourse is like visiting a great city and only walking down one street. Many couples after 70 discover a liberating truth, that focusing on manual stimulation, oral stimulation, and using sex toys can lead to more powerful, profound, and connected orgasmic experiences than ever before. It frees both partners from the pressure of performance and opens up a world of mutual discovery. It acknowledges that the body may have changed, but the capacity for deep pleasure has not. We've talked about gentle solutions for comfort, we've explored the spark of desire, and we've redefined the meaning of pleasure. But all of these are just tools. They are the instruments in the orchestra. So what is the music they are meant to play? This brings us to our final and most profound point, the very heart of this entire conversation. This brings us to our final and most profound point. All the creams, pills, and techniques in the world are meaningless if they do not serve a higher purpose, which is connection. The most powerful tool for reclaiming intimacy after 70 is not a prescription, it is courageous communication and compassion. Let's return to Carol and David. Their real breakthrough didn't happen in a doctor's office, but on the couch in their living room. One evening after weeks of silence, Carol, with all her courage, turned to David and said, "I miss us." Those 3 words broke the dam. David, with relief in his eyes, admitted his own fears, of hurting her, of no longer being man enough. Carol shared her feelings of loneliness and the fear that her own body had betrayed her. In that moment of vulnerability, as the mask came off, the invisible wall between them began to dissolve. That is when the real healing began. They made a pact. They would rediscover intimacy, but with no pressure for intercourse. Their goal wasn't an act, but a feeling, the feeling of closeness. They started simply. Every evening, while watching television, they would give each other foot rubs. They practiced hugging longer, not rushed hugs at the door, but 20-second hugs, long enough for both nervous systems to relax. They held hands on their walks in the park. These simple acts aren't just sentimental, they are biological. Every loving touch, every moment of closeness, releases a powerful hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin is often called the bonding hormone or the cuddle hormone. It's the neurochemical glue that fosters trust empathy, and security. It reduces stress and creates a deep sense of peace in the presence of a loved one. They were consciously rebuilding their oxytocin bond. As they began to feel safe and trusting with one another again, curiosity began to replace fear. They started exploring more intimate touch with no goals or expectations. They realized that satisfaction could come from a long kiss, from shared laughter, from the warmth of skin against skin. For them, intimacy had become a new adventure, a chapter written not with the impulsive passion of youth, but with the tenderness, patience, and deep understanding forged over 52 years. The story of Carol and David is a powerful reminder. Giving up on intimacy is not an inevitable consequence of aging. More often, it is the result of silence. The silence between couples and the silence in our society about this topic. The knowledge you've learned today about hormones, about physical therapy, about medical options, and about the power of redefining pleasure is your map out of that silence. It gives you the language to talk to your doctor. It gives you the confidence to talk to your partner. And it gives you the hope that connection, joy, and vitality are your birthright at every age. Don't give up. You may need a little help. You may need to try something new. You may need to have a conversation you've been avoiding for years. But that journey is worth it. Because reclaiming intimacy isn't just about sex. It's about reclaiming an essential part of who you are. It's about nurturing the most important relationship of your life. It's about proving to yourself and to the world that a relationship can and should continue to grow, deepen, and become more brilliant over time. Thank you for joining us at Senior Health and Life. If this conversation has given you hope or an insight, please share it. Please like, subscribe, and join our community. Because every life is a story worth telling, and every chapter has the potential to be the most beautiful one yet.